Now that we've seen how to get an Android Wear app up and running on your simulator in Android Studio, we're going to spend a little bit of time just seeing how this all fits together, the code and these three layouts here. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to challenge you to make a very, very simple Android Wear watch app. So first off, let's jump to these three layouts. So we've got activity main, which we're used to, and then rect activity main and round activity main. So just from those names, you can probably guess that this activity main layout is for a rectangular watch face, and this is for a round watch face. Well, what's activity main for then? Well, essentially activity main is there to work out what watch face you've got and then apply either rect activity main or round activity main, depending on the circumstances. So this is what's known as a watch view stub. And a stub essentially is a container which decides which layout to display. And that process is known as inflating a layout. So we start off with a stub and then we work out what layout we've got on our actual device, whether it's round or square. Then we inflate the appropriate layout. So you can see just about what's going on here. We're used to most of this XML, but the new stuff here is we've now got a rectangular layout tag here, which just links to the layout for a rectangular layout, and we've got the round layout as well. So really this is just a collection of instructions to choose this layout if the watch is rectangular and this layout if the watch is round. So having a quick look at the rectangular, it's actually pretty straightforward. Nothing too strange in the linear layout there, we're used to those, and then it's got a text view within it that says Hello World, or Hello Square World to be precise. And then the round layout file is extremely similar. It's just built for round watch layout rather than a square one. So that's how this works, and that means that you need to maintain two layouts, one for a square layout and one for a round. Now probably they're going to be pretty similar, but it might be that you want a different positioning for your buttons or something like that if it's a round activity. So that's how these three fit together. Activity main is the watch view stub, which chooses between a rectangular and round display and then shows the app which layout to use depending on the shape of the device. So that's how layouts work. In our main activity, we said we had this slightly different code than what we're used to here. Now that we've had that explanation, it should make a bit more sense. So we've got this watch view stub variable, which simply refers to the stub in activity main. So this thing here, you can see it's got an ID of watch view stub. And then this set on layout inflated listener listens for the correct layout to have been inflated. So this method will be called when the watch has done its job of saying, oh, we've got a rectangular face or we've got a round face, and let's then proceed from there. So actually pretty straightforward, right? Notice that we can have objects with the same ID in these layouts, and that's very useful to us because usually we're going to have, say, a main label, and we want that to have the same ID in either the rectangular layout, so it's text there, or the round layout, so it's text there as well. So that's obviously very useful because it means we can refer to each UI element in our main activity with just one ID. We don't have to refer to it with different IDs depending on whether we're on rectangular or round. You might be wondering though, how could we tell in our code whether we're on a rectangular layout or a round layout? And there's no very easily accessible built-in method for that, but the easiest way that I've found is to refer to one of the linear layouts by ID and then test to see if it's null or not. So if, for example, we set the rectangular one to have an ID of rect layout, then we can test to see if that exists. So if find view by ID r.id dot rect layout So if that is not null, that means we have a rectangular layout. And if it is, we have a round layout. So I think it's a slightly hacky way of doing it, but it works, and it's a nice simple if statement. You could always put that in a separate method to return true or false to make it make a bit more sense. But that's the easiest way that I've found to work out what layout we're working on. Okay, so that's how all of these fit together. The mini app that I want you to make as just a test to make sure that you've understood how this all works is a super simple one. I just want a button in the middle of the screen that says say hello, and then when someone taps it, it comes up with a toast that says hello. So a super simple, just a basic bit of interactivity, but I do want you to make it work and test it on both the rectangular and round watches. Okay, best of luck, go for it. All right, hope that helped you get to grips with Android Wear. Let's start off a new one to do this. So I'll call this Say Hello. And again, we're working with Where, and we'll have our blank Where activity. Great. Here we go. So let's start off by bringing a button in. So we'll get rid of our Hello Square World, and we'll bring in a button, and I'm going to center that and change the text to say hello. I'll leave the ID as button, and let's change the on click to say hello. So you can see this is working in exactly the same way that we have made all our Android apps so far. And then round. Again, we'll get rid of that. And this time we'll drag it in the absolute center there. Say hello. And it doesn't actually matter whether we give it the same ID or not. So we'll have a different ID. We're not going to be referring to it by ID, we're just going to be using the onClick method, which is going to be the same for both of them. Okay, so we should be able to see when we run it that it will look slightly different on both types of watch, because in the round one it'll be centered in the middle, and in the rectangular one it'll be centered at the top of the screen. Okay, so in our main activity, we don't have a text view anymore. Here we go. So we only have, in fact, we don't need to be able to refer to anything at all. We just need our public void say hello method, which is going to be called by our button. And then we just want to do our usual toast. And it's all the same settings. So everything that we're very familiar with. And that's it. So that should now work on both the rectangular and round watches. I've got my round watch emulator up here, so let's test that first, and then we'll test it on a square one. And here we go. We've got our round watch face, say hello in the middle, and when we tap that, it says hi. Fantastic. So really that was mostly to show you that Android Wear development is very, very similar to Android development in general. Just all you really need to get to grips with is the watch face layouts. Let's just make sure that this is working correctly on the rectangular layout as well. So I'm going to need to create a new Android Wear virtual device. So we'll do this in the same way that we did last time. And we want a square one this time, so I'll go for the higher resolution. Next, and yep, the x86 is a good choice. That should all be fine. So then that should add the square device. There we go. I'll close that down. And now we can select square. And this should work in exactly the same way, but we will hopefully get the button at the top of the watch rather than in the center. And there we go. You can see our square watch works in exactly the same way, and if we tap it, we get high. Just in case you're wondering how to get this button centered vertically on the square watch, for some reason the default app here gives us a linear layout on the rectangular layout and a relative layout on the round one. My suggestion would be to copy the relative layout over to rectangular, or just change linear layout to relative layout, and then you'll be able to set that up more flexibly than the linear layout allows. Alright, so in the next video we're going to take our Android Wear app development a little bit further and make something slightly more advanced, and that is going to be our people counter app. I'll see you there.